Hello there, Chris here from Preussen Studios. I appreciate you joining me. This evening we're going to talk a little bit about dyeing leather. That is, staining the leather to a chosen color. And really it can depend on the type of leather it is. A lot of it has to do with the colors that you use, how you mix them, whether it's even possible. Because remember, if you're starting off with a tan colored leather, it's very hard to get a white out of that. Basically because the leather itself will retain a certain amount of color within it. Today we're going to be doing some simple brown dye though, basically what they call saddle tan, or making it, you know, colored like old western saddles. I've got a couple of items here with me today that I'm going to dye. We'll talk about the parts and pieces that can be used for different types of dyes. Like what I was talking about earlier, and I use a lot of EcoFlow products. This is a EcoFlow Blue. And of course I've got yellow, violet, green, pretty much all the colors here. Black, I've got, this one here is bison. I mean, there's a lot of different colors that you could get from this. It's different than edge dressing, and it's different than sheen, which we'll talk about towards the end. Because you don't want to do those things till after you're finished dyeing. So, let me point the camera down. That way you can see what I'm working on. Right here on the desktop. Fantastic. What I have here today is some what they call gel antique. Now I get this at Tandy as well. It's EcoFlow brand. But as you can see, this is a saddle tan. That's the color that it is. And it'll have its own little sheen to it. It actually works pretty well for this application. This is your typical type of edge dressing, what they call edge coat. And it works really well on the edges for finishing products. You're going to want to have some daubers, which these right here are just standard cotton daubers. They sit there and do the job of spreading it around. You want to get a good pair of rubber gloves. I get mine from AutoZone because mechanics, you know, work all the time in that condition. And what we're going to dye today is the piece that I've been working on, which is the axe cover, as you can see, and a sheath, which we're going to dye. So, adjust that camera just a little bit up. Alright, first thing we're going to do is start off with putting on our gloves. And this is just so your hands don't become orange or brown or whatever color you're working with, because that will happen. You want to get a couple of daubers out because you're actually going to use about 2 of them. You're going to use one for the edge dressing and one for the main portion of the dye. You want to give your dye a good shake. Make sure that it's mixed up nice and fine, because these things will settle. I think the main difference between the dye that I'll be using and the antiquing gel, there's not much difference between the two. What we're going to do is we're going to do this one with this brown color, this small EcoFlow. I'm going to use it because there's not really a whole lot left inside of here, but there's enough to do this with. So when this stuff comes out, you don't really have to wet your dauber too much. You just kind of dap it in there and then bring it out, and it'll look kind of gunky. You want to make sure that your leather doesn't have any oils, any glues or anything like that that are visible. And then you want to give it a basic even application. Now what I'll do, since it has trouble working its way into tight corners, I'll start with the letters like this. And I'll work my way around the whole thing, just like this. As long as I stick to just one side of it, it won't dry fast enough where I can't get a good even coating. To prevent that from happening, what we're going to do is we're going to smear it in really, really good. We're going to go like this, and then we're going to take our rubber glove, go over the whole thing, and just give it a nice massage, I guess you could call it. And what that's going to do is that's going to give me a good even coating. If you ever have to thin it, regular water will thin it. So you always want to make sure that you have some water handy. Be sure and get that dye in all the parts that you can. You don't want to leave any little holidays around, and holidays are the point where there is no color or no dye on that side. As you can see, it worked itself in pretty good. And basically, we're working off a squeegee effect. When we put this stuff on here, The rubber glove is actually pushing it down into the leather to give yourself a nice, even coat. That way it looks good. I'm going to do this other side real quick. Just get a little bit more out here. And I'll apply it on here. And we're going to do the exact same thing that we did. This one I got kind of a little step up right there. So I'm going to work around that with the dauber so that I get a good even coat on it. And once that's in there, we're going to give it a good spreading around. Let it soak in real nice. Remember, the longer it sits there, the darker it's going to get. So you want to keep rubbing it. You don't want to stop rubbing it. You want to keep rubbing it in to all the parts. Make sure it works its way in there. And if it starts to dry out a little bit, just get you some water and smooth it around. Get a nice, uniform, even coating, and that's what you're looking for, is a uniformed, even coating. You have to take it out, go over your little edges. If you got any glue on there, you'll see where it's at. It's not really a worry too much. If you got glue on it, just go back in with some sandpaper later on and scrub it out. And as soon as you scrub on it, the glue will come loose. When the glue comes loose, then the dye will take to the leather that's below it. I think you want a good, even coat. Now, it will not affect the rivets, the snaps, and things like that that you put on here. It goes right over the top of them. Then you take a dry cloth and basically wipe off the rivets just so that the color doesn't set on there. But it has no rusting effect or anything like that. It's not acidic. A lot of these dyes are being made naturally nowadays from plant derivatives, so they're not actually harmful at all. So that's a good coating. As you can see how it looks, it'll be ready for a good coating of polish and sheen. And once it dries, then we'll put the edge coating on this. That'll be our next series. Thanks again for watching, and y'all have a good evening.